Have you ever had that moment where you felt like the entire universe was against you? When every door that slammed in your face seemed to confirm that you didn't have what it takes to win? When even your closest people started doubting your dreams, and you yourself began questioning whether you were just another dreamer lost in the crowd of failures? If you're watching this video right now, it's because that pain still burns inside your chest. And I have news for you. That pain isn't your end, it's your fuel. There's a brutal difference between those who win and those who quit. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not privilege. It's something much deeper and more powerful. Winners act as if victory is already theirs, even when everything around them screams otherwise. They walk with the posture of someone who's already arrived, even while they're in the middle of the journey. They speak with the authority of someone who's already conquered, even when they're still building. And you know what happens when you do this? The universe has no choice but to respond at the level of your energy. Napoleon Hill spent decades studying the richest and most powerful men in the world to discover this secret. He wasn't interested in the pretty stories they told magazines. He wanted to know what really happened in their minds when nobody was watching. And what he discovered goes against everything society teaches you about humility and waiting your turn. The greats don't wait for permission. They don't act based on current reality. They act based on the reality they're creating. While you're here torturing yourself with doubts, wondering if you deserve the success you want, questioning if you have the right to dream big, your future competitors are sleeping soundly in mediocrity. They've accepted the place life gave them. They've settled for easy explanations about why they can't have more. They've found peace in mediocrity, and you're here restless, unsatisfied, burning inside because you know there's something greater waiting for you. That restlessness isn't a curse. It's a blessing in disguise. The first thing you need to understand is that the universe doesn't respond to what you need. It responds to what you project. If you walk hunched over by the weight of your circumstances, if you talk about your dreams like they're distant impossibilities, if you behave like someone asking permission to exist, the universe will treat you exactly like that. It'll give you crumbs. It'll give you leftovers. It'll give you exactly the small energy you're projecting. But when you change your frequency, when you start acting as if you already are who you need to be, something magical happens. Doors that seemed welded shut begin to open. Opportunities that seemed impossible start appearing. People who used to ignore you start noticing you. Not by magic, not by luck, because you changed your vibration, and the universe had to reorganize reality to match it. You know that person who always had everything easy in life? Who never had to fight for anything? Who was born with a silver spoon and thinks the whole world owes them something? That person will never understand the power you carry inside you. They were never forged in pain. They never had to build strength from nothing. They never had to look in the mirror and decide between giving up or becoming invincible. You've been through that. You've been tested by fire. And every time you chose to continue, you became a little stronger. Don't curse your pain. Celebrate the diamond it created inside you. Napoleon Hill discovered that the most powerful men in the world had one trait in common. They acted with unshakable certainty, even when they had no guarantees. They spoke about their goals not as possibilities, but as inevitable facts. They invested time, energy, and resources in visions that existed only in their minds. And you know why they did this? Because they understood a fundamental law of the universe. External reality always adjusts to match internal reality. Let me tell you a true story. There was a man who grew up in extreme poverty. His family didn't even have money to buy shoes. He worked since childhood to help at home. Everyone around him said he should settle for little, that people like him weren't made to dream big. But he had a vision. He saw himself as one of the most powerful businessmen in the country. He didn't wait to have money to act like a successful entrepreneur. He started dressing like one, talking like one, thinking like one. Even when he lived in a rented room, he acted with the authority of someone who commanded an empire. People started treating him differently. Opportunities began appearing. Partnerships that seemed impossible started materializing. Today, He owns one of the largest companies in his sector. The difference between him and others wasn't luck. It was the decision to act as if victory was already his. Even when nobody believed, there's a brutal difference between those who react and those who create. Most people live reacting to what happens to them. Something goes wrong and they panic. Someone criticizes them and they crumble. A door closes and they stop trying. They're leaves in the wind, always at the mercy of circumstances. But you're not like that. You're different. You've learned that circumstances are temporary, but your character is permanent. You understood that obstacles don't come to destroy you. They come to reveal who you really are. The universe is constantly testing whether you really believe what you're declaring. It'll put obstacles in your path not to stop you, but to see if you'll maintain your posture. It'll allow people to criticize you not because you're wrong, but to see if you'll bow to others' opinions. It'll create difficult situations not because it wants to make you suffer, but because it wants to see if you'll keep faith even when you can't see the final result. Every time you maintain your posture in the face of adversity, you're sending a clear message to the universe. I'm not like the others. I don't quit. I don't bow down. I don't accept less than I deserve. And the universe, which respects strength and determination above all else, begins to conspire in your favor. Let me explain something that modern society doesn't want you to know. There's a silent minority of people who understood this secret. They don't make noise. They don't show off on social media. They don't need to prove anything to anyone. They simply act with the certainty of those who've already won, and the universe responds accordingly. While the loud ones are fighting for attention, the silent ones are building empires. While the desperate ones are begging for opportunities, the strategic ones are creating their own opportunities. You might be wondering, but how can I act like I've already won when I'm still struggling to pay bills? That's the question of someone who hasn't yet understood the power of the mind. Acting as if victory is already yours doesn't mean pretending problems don't exist. It means facing problems with the mentality of someone who already knows they're going to win. It's the difference between someone who's desperately trying to survive and someone who's strategically solving temporary obstacles on the path to their inevitable destiny. Napoleon Hill called this applied faith. It's not blind, passive faith. It's active, militant faith. It's the faith that moves mountains because it doesn't accept no as a final answer. It's the faith that transforms visions into reality because it acts in the present based on the desired future. Think about all the great leaders in history. They didn't wait to have power to act like leaders. They acted like leaders and power came as a consequence. They didn't wait to have followers to speak like someone with an important message. They spoke with authority and followers appeared. They didn't wait for the perfect moment to start. They started where they were, with what they had, but with the mentality of someone who had already arrived where they wanted to be. There's a psychological phenomenon called self-fulfilling prophecy. When you deeply believe something will happen, you unconsciously make all the decisions and take all the actions that make that thing actually happen. Your gestures change. Your posture changes. Your way of speaking changes. The energy you project changes. And when you change, the world around you is forced to change too. But there's a crucial difference between daydreaming and having applied faith. The dreamer keeps imagining how nice it would be if things were different. The person with applied faith acts today based on the certainty that things will be different. The dreamer waits for someone to come save them. The person with applied faith becomes the savior of their own story. Have you ever noticed how people treat someone differently when that person is certain of their own worth? They may not agree with everything that person does, but they respect them. They may even criticize, but they pay attention, because there's something magnetic about certainty. There's something irresistible about genuine confidence. And I'm not talking about arrogance or cockiness. I'm talking about that quiet security of someone who knows who they are and where they're going. Most people live begging for approval. They do everything they can to please others, to fit in, to not cause discomfort. They diminish their own dreams so as not to bother anyone. They speak quietly so as not to draw attention. They behave as if they were visitors on their own planet, and then they wonder why they can't get the results they want. You weren't made to live like this. You were made to take up space, to speak loudly, to dream big, to disturb those who need to be disturbed, to be exactly who you are without apologizing. And when you finally understand this, when you finally stop shrinking to fit into the small spaces others created for you, the universe has no choice but to expand reality to accommodate the greatness you're projecting. Napoleon Hill observed that the most successful men had a peculiar characteristic. They behaved as if they were partners with the universe, not victims of circumstances. They didn't beg for opportunities. They created opportunities. They didn't wait for someone to recognize their value. They demonstrated their own value through their actions. They didn't ask permission to pursue their goals. They simply pursued them. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. Imagine two people wanting the same position at a company. The first arrives at the interview nervous, apologizing for being there, explaining why they might not be qualified enough. The second arrives at the interview with the energy of someone who already belongs in that place, asking questions about how they can contribute to the company's goals, demonstrating through their presence that they're not there to beg for a chance, but to offer value. Who do you think will get the position? The difference isn't in the resume, it's in the energy. It's in how each one sees themselves and presents themselves to the world. The first sees themselves as someone who needs to prove they deserve to be there. The second sees themselves as someone who already belongs at that level, who's just finding the right place to express what they already are. But beware of a dangerous trap. Some people confuse acting like victory is already theirs with being lazy or negligent. They think it's enough to decree success and wait for it to fall from the sky. That's not applied faith, that's fantasy. Acting like victory is already yours means working with the intensity of someone who can't afford to fail, but with the tranquility of someone who knows the final result is guaranteed. It's like an architect building a skyscraper. He doesn't build hoping that maybe the building will stand. He builds with absolute certainty that following the correct blueprint and using adequate materials, the building will stand. He acts based on the final result he already knows, even though the building doesn't yet exist physically. The universe operates with precise laws. One of these laws is that energy attracts similar energy. When you project the energy of victory, you attract situations, people, and opportunities that are on the same frequency. When you project energy of lack, desperation, and doubt, you attract exactly that. More situations to feel lacking, desperate, and full of doubts. This doesn't mean you'll never face difficulties. It means you'll face difficulties from a position of power, not as a victim. You'll solve problems, not be crushed by them. You'll use obstacles as stepping stones, not as excuses to give up. There's a difference between those who fight to survive and those who fight to conquer. Those who fight to survive are always on defense, always reacting, always trying to avoid the worst. Those who fight to conquer are always on offense, always creating, always seeking the best. The energy is completely different. The results are completely different. Have you ever had the experience of meeting someone who just achieved a great victory? Whether it's a promotion, a relationship, a business that worked out. Notice that person's energy. They walk differently. They speak differently. Their eyes shine differently. They project a natural confidence that makes other opportunities appear almost magically. Why? Because victory attracts victory. Success attracts success. Confidence attracts confidence. The question is, why do you need to wait for victory to arrive to have that energy? Why can't you have that energy now, knowing it will attract the victory you need? That's the difference between those who understand the laws of the universe and those who remain hostage to appearances. Napoleon Hill discovered that the mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real experience. When you visualize your success in detail, when you feel the emotions of victory, when you act based on that internal reality, Your subconscious mind begins working 24 hours a day to transform that vision into physical reality. But there's a secret few people know. Visualization only works when accompanied by congruent action. It's no use imagining yourself rich if you continue making poor decisions. It's no use seeing yourself as a leader if you continue acting like a follower. It's no use dreaming of greatness if you continue behaving in small ways. The true revolution happens when your internal identity finally aligns with your external actions. When who you are inside finally matches what you do outside. When you stop living this schizophrenia of dreaming big but acting small, of wanting more but behaving like someone who deserves less. Let me give you the exact recipe for making this happen in your life. First, you need to decide who you want to be in the future. Not what you want to have, but who you want to be. What characteristics does this future version of you possess? How does it think? How does it act? How does it react to problems? How does it relate to people? How does it make decisions? Second, you need to start incorporating these characteristics now, even if you don't yet have the external results. If the future version of you is confident, start acting confidently today. If it's disciplined, start being disciplined today. If it's courageous, start making courageous decisions today. Don't wait to feel ready. Start being who you need to be, and feelings will follow actions. Third, you need to protect this new identity like a soldier protects conquered territory. There will be people trying to convince you that you're dreaming too much. There will be internal voices trying to pull you back to the comfort zone. There will be situations that will test whether you really believe in this new version of yourself. These are the moments that define who you're going to become. The average person gives up at the first serious obstacle. They interpret difficulty as a sign they were on the wrong path. But you're not an average person. You understand that obstacles are part of the process. They don't come to stop you, they come to strengthen you. They're not signs that you should give up. They're signs that you're on the right path. Think about the great champions in sports. They don't behave like champions only after winning the trophy. They behave like champions throughout all the training, all the preparation, the entire journey. They have the champion's mentality before having the champion's title. And that's exactly why they get the title. The same principle applies to any area of life. The successful entrepreneur doesn't wait to have a big company to think like a successful entrepreneur. They think like a successful entrepreneur from when they only have an idea in their head. The influential leader doesn't wait to have followers to act like a leader. They act like a leader and followers appear naturally. There's a phrase by Napoleon Hill that sums it all up. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, but there's a crucial word in that phrase that many people ignore: believe. It's not enough to conceive. You need to truly believe, and truly believing manifests through your actions, not just your thoughts. When you really believe you deserve success, you stop sabotaging yourself. When you really believe you have value, you stop accepting less than you deserve. When you really believe in your potential, you stop wasting time on things that don't take you where you want to go. True belief is militant. It doesn't accept contrary arguments. It doesn't bow before discouraging statistics. It's not intimidated by others' negative opinions. It's like a fire that burns everything that no longer serves in your life and illuminates the path to what really matters. But there's a difference between blind belief and intelligent belief. Blind belief ignores reality and expects miracles to happen by divine intervention. Intelligent belief recognizes current reality but refuses to accept that it's permanent. It uses reality as a starting point, not a destination. You're living current reality, but working toward future reality. You accept where you are, but don't accept staying where you are. You recognize the limitations of the present moment, but refuse to believe they define your potential. And you know what the result of this is. People around you start seeing you differently. They may not be able to explain what changed, but they feel a different energy. Some will be inspired and want to get closer. Others will be bothered and try to diminish you. Both reactions are signs that you're on the right track. When you stop seeking approval and start radiating authenticity, when you stop asking permission and start taking possession of your life, when you stop explaining your dreams and start achieving them, the universe has no other option but to reorganize circumstances, to accommodate the new version of you that's emerging. But be prepared, because not everyone will celebrate your evolution. There are people who need you to stay small so they can feel big. There are people who need you to keep failing to justify their own failure. There are people who are deeply bothered when you stop accepting the limitations they accept for themselves. And you know what that means? It means you're bothering the right people. It means you're messing with structures that needed to be messed with. It means you're fulfilling your role of awakening others to their own potential, even if they're not ready for it yet. Napoleon Hill observed that every successful person faced criticism, opposition, and even sabotage from their closest people. Not because these people are bad, but because they're afraid. Afraid that if you manage to transform yourself, they'll also have to face the possibility of transformation. And not everyone is ready for that. That's why it's fundamental that you understand your transformation journey isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about becoming who you were born to be. It's not about impressing others. It's about expressing your maximum potential. It's not about gaining external approval. It's about conquering self-respect. When you finally understand this, when you finally stop living for the audience and start living for purpose, something extraordinary happens. You find an inner peace that doesn't depend on external results. You develop a confidence that can't be shaken by others' opinions. You discover a strength that grows with challenges instead of diminishing. And it's exactly this energy that the universe recognizes and rewards. Not the desperate energy of someone trying to prove something, not the needy energy of someone begging for approval, but the sovereign energy of someone who knows their own worth and acts based on that knowledge. The time has come for you to make a choice. You can continue reacting to circumstances, waiting for someone to come save you, justifying why you can't have what you want. Or you can decide to become the architect of your own reality, the director of your own movie, the author of your own story. If you choose the second path, know that it won't be easy. It will require you to abandon old identities that no longer serve. It will require you to face fears you'd prefer to keep avoiding. It will require you to make difficult decisions and assume responsibilities you might prefer not to assume. But also know that this is the only way for you to discover what you're really capable of. It's the only way for you to access the power that exists within you. It's the only way for you to create a life worth living. The universe is waiting for your decision. It's waiting to see if you'll continue being just another ordinary person, living an ordinary life, complaining about ordinary problems, or if you'll assume the place that was always yours by right, the place of someone who came here to make a difference, to leave a mark, to be remembered not for what they suffered, but for what they conquered. Now I want you to stop everything you're doing and declare out loud, I choose to be unshakable. I choose to act as if victory is already mine. I choose to trust my potential more than my circumstances. I choose to be the most powerful version of myself, not tomorrow, not when I feel ready, but now.